Welcome to the Now Show, where we get to the heart of the matter and what's really important, the real feels behind everything, and where we share conscious conversations which allow us to speak about different topics that are guided from the heart and our inner knowing. Today is one of my favorite podcasts slash YouTube videos slash WeTube videos that I've ever done. It's with a beautiful woman that her business is called Cannatunes, and she really goes to the next level of frequency, where I'm always teaching that everything's energy and frequency and sound healing. This is next level. She creates music from plant frequency and then uses it to like jam to. You can do healing with it, you can journey with it. And she's using her background of environmental science and being a lawyer to share this beautiful gift with us. So please take the time to listen to this whole episode and stay tuned at the end for the resources. Thank you so much for joining me today and taking the time to come on.
Thank you once again for having me on. I'm so excited to talk to you about my work with cannatunes. And yeah, my name's Loretta Maps Bolt, and Maps Bolt is my artist name. Loretta is my given name. And I started cannatunes after a number of years of being a cannabis farmer. Let me go back a little bit. I went to school back in 2002 to 2006 for environmental law, but the college I went to didn't really focus on the law aspect. They were more focused on having these future lawyers really understand the intricacies of an ecology and really get down deep into the science aspect before they became lawyers. So all my classes ended in ology, dendrology, mycology, ichthyology, basically the study of, and you fill in the blank, just tons of organic chemistry. So really coming from an English and history background, you know, and that being like one of the things I prefer, being immersed in this really technical, scientific aspect of environmentalism was really intense for me. So honestly, my use of cannabis at the time and my use of psilocybin mushrooms as well really allowed me to sort of put together all of this analogous information that was very technical, very wordy, very hard to put together as a whole picture. And the medicine, or what I call medicine, really allowed me to synthesize that information. And I was already reading a lot of books that were talking about in the environment and as the more than human world, about trees and the environment itself having its own spirit or essence. And so I really wanted to bring those two worlds together. And so after leaving college, that sort of just stuck around in the back of my mind. So once I became a biodynamic farmer, and biodynamics is really a type of farming where you're implementing this idea that you're not trying to tame the outside world, you're really trying to work with it, you're trying to find where you fit in, and growing things based off of the seasons, and really working with how can I explain it? It's almost like a magical geography sort of situation, by really getting down deep into what the sense of belonging is for you and the plants and the essence of the land. And so I just really, after just years of like a little bit of this, a little bit of biodynamic farming, a little bit of the environmental law, by the time I became a cannabis farmer in Northern California, I was kind of just sitting back looking at these plants and being like, oh yeah, all that other stuff. Oh yeah. And early in, I want to say 2011, 2012, I was on this really incredible tour with a group called the Sustainable Living Roadshow, and we traveled across the country teaching people how to live sustainably with the resources in their community, and not just be like, hey, we're a bunch of California hippies off the bus and we're just going to like tell you how to live. We didn't want to be that. We wanted to invite people from their own community within their own resource groups and be like, hey, this person down the street from you makes soap with goat's milk, and this other
Cool.
creates cob housing right here in Oklahoma, you know? And so
Mm-hmm.
it was really great to meet all types of people, and through that experience I was exposed to a group called Damenhor, which is a community in Italy that's been around since about the mid 1960s, early 1970s. They created a whole like, I believe it's a 8 to 9 story temple underneath a mountain that they did in secret, that they actually got into a lawsuit with the Pope over for 11 years that they won. Now it's Italy's 23rd national treasure. But these Damenhor people were the ones who created this music with the plants technology. Originally, the device was created around in the 80s. If you look into them, this Damenhor community, they're really into this idea that, you know, the essence or being of country, what they call country, or the land, is obvious once you really take a look or you take a step back. And so that's what their community is really all about. And so the music with the plants is really their way of expressing the voice, quote unquote, of the land. And so they've created this technology that is based off of Cleve Baxter's work. Cleve Baxter was the original creator of the lie detector machine.
Okay.
And he started all of this work working with plants, and the electrical signals off of plants really started with Cleve Baxter. He created the lie detector machine around in the 1950s, worked with the CIA, the FBI, did a lot of work there, created a whole school on how to teach people on how to use the machine and the device, and then just really became bored in his lab in the 70s, and had a Dracaena plant, which is basically like a type of rubber tree or palm tree. And he just hooked up his lie detector machine to this Dracaena plant and started taking the electrical resistance off of that plant and started seeing the reactions of the plant based off of his interactions with that plant or messages he was trying to psychically give to the plant. He would harm himself, you know, in other countries and see that the plant was responding with his, like, his assistant would be in front of the plant working with the plant. He would be on the phone from England with his laboratory being in California, being like, all right, I'm going to cut myself with this razor, see if the plant reacts, and the plant would react. He would have like emotional or depressive states, the plant would react, or even happy, ecstatic states. And so the Damenhor community really built off of that work and turned the resistance reactions of the plants into musical notes. And so that's basically where all of this started. I am not the creator of the technology. I just knew about it through some of the books that I had been reading in my work doing environmental law about Cleve Baxter, and then through the Sustainable Living Roadshow, I found out about this Damenhor community. So it was really like a gift. Like all of these things just sort of came together in a basket to sort of form a picture, and it just clicked, right? And I was already a cannabis farmer, so I was like, boom, like this is the one plant that sort of allows everyone to come together in this idea, right? And I feel like cannabis has this very powerful ability to bring people into a knowing that the plant itself has an essence, has a knowledge into itself, that when you're consuming the cannabis, you're feeling its knowledge, its essence, its embodiment, right? And
Totally.
so being able to give voice to these different strains, also in a way, because the environment in which the cannabis grows, whether it's indoor, outdoor, you, me, this guy, it's all going to sound different. So my blue dream is going to sound different than your blue dream, or this guy's blue
Mm-hmm.
dream indoor, right? And so really just acknowledging the individual um, beauty, essence, life inside of each individual plant, I think is um, a real opportunity to have that tangible sort of experience where it all sort of comes together to a person who wants to get in touch with the more than human world.
Mm-hmm, for sure. I love everything that you're saying. I'm like, I feel like you need to like write a book or do some kind of documentary, and then I
Sure.
will read it and watch it, and I will learn everything, and everyone else will learn everything. Like everything that you're saying is so like the next level of from just going to like first finding cannabis and feeling like it works, or like going to that yoga class and sound healing for the first time, and you're like, oh, I could feel that in my body. It's like this is like the next level of being like, yes, because everything's energy and frequency. And this is how we can tap into that, and how we can heal, and how we can alter states of consciousness and being. And so there's so much wisdom in that. And it's so natural that it's just so needed that every person just learns more about this.
Absolutely. I think it's we're in a time where we have all of this type of technology at our fingertips, and it just
Yes.
all needs to be put together, right? It's just we have a really great like, I don't even know what to call it. It's almost like a dimension that we're living in where
Yes.
where all the information is there, right? And it just takes a little bit of that effort. I'm doing a project right now that's focused on ginseng, and
Mm-hmm.
it's been kind of interesting because I haven't been doing a lot of work with cannabis as of late, but this project I've been doing with ginseng has, it feels like it's brought me closer to cannabis in this strange
Okay.
way, because I personally did not have a relationship with ginseng before. I never really used ginseng. I actually tried to stay away from anything that said like, oh, this drink has ginseng in it or whatever. I don't know. Like,
Mm-hmm. Because
I just,
sometimes it's almost like it's associated with like that caffeine and that
exactly.
altering spike and bring you back down. But I also recently had someone tell me like, no, it's so natural and it's so wonderful and you'll feel so good. And I same, I've been skeptical. So you being the second confirmation about it, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try it.
Totally. And it's been kind of funny because so apparently with ginseng there's a couple of different varieties or strains of it, but there's an American ginseng and then there's the Chinese ginseng. The Chinese consider it sort of a yin yang effect. The American ginseng is more of a yang. The Chinese ginseng is more of a yin effect, and
Mm-hmm.
they go together in the Chinese medicinal world, but the American ginseng has more of a cooling, healing effect, where the Chinese ginseng has more of a heating, energizing effect. The American
Mm-hmm.
ginseng is more nourishing, but the point I guess I'm trying to make is while I was doing the research for this ginseng project, I came across a because I was trying to find animistic perspectives of ginseng, and I ran across a Cherokee legend that spoke about ginseng being the grandfather of all plants.
Wow.
Now, the only reason why I mention this is because the way the story goes is that the rest of the you know plants, bugs, earthly creatures kind of got together and was like, humans are sort of messing everything up. We're not really cool with this. We want to create all these
Mm-hmm.
diseases and things to like wipe them out or get them off the planet. And then they consulted grandfather ginseng, and his or their perspective was that people were placed on the planet just like everything else. They have their own place, and that the plants would make antidotes for anything that the bugs or the other animals would create problems for the humans, but humans would have to approach the plants and ask for those antidotes for that
Mm-hmm.
healing. And so that story in itself, just this idea of coming to the plants and talking to them or approaching to them in a humble sort of way,
Mm-hmm.
um, really sort of made me reflect on the experiences I was having making music with plants. There's been so many times where I've gone up to plants, be like, I'm gonna go make music with this plant. We're gonna jam out, blah, blah, blah. And
Yeah.
I'll hook up the plant, I'll hit record, and I'm like, go! And plant doesn't do anything. It's like nothing for like hours, right? And then I'll just like go, and then I'll be like, all right, plant, you don't want to make music, that's cool. And then literally the second I go, or even the second I make that decision in my mind that I'm just gonna quit, I'm gonna leave it alone, that's when it'll start making music. Instantaneously, the plant's like, oh, now you gave up, now it's not about you, you know? And so I feel like the plants, like, they're very aware of like what our intentions are and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And it might not be obvious to us, but I feel like there's something to what lots of other people who are in the Anthropocene world in terms of working with the more than human world is that the plants are growing with us, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they're receptive to our wants and needs, but we also have to be receptive to theirs, that we're in this
Yes.
symbiotic sort of relationship. And I've been listening to a gentleman named Gordon White who does a lot of work. He has this really great magical geography course that I'm taking. Um, he speaks about this sort of, it might sound a little bit provocative, but this idea that there is no environment, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that the environment is a construct that we created as human beings to separate ourselves from the outside. And so
Mm-hmm.
this sort of environmentalism where we are constantly taking this anthropomorphic sort of role where it's always us versus them is I think I don't even know what the word is. It's tearing apart sort of the internal, I think, knowing that we have inside of us. That when
Mm-hmm.
we're inside of the woods or in our special places in nature and things like that, like we feel that, you know, like
Yeah.
it's there for a reason. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's ultimately what I want the music to be an experience of, sort of like yes, this is happening to you, this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you
What
can
do you find people use your music for the most? Like, is it like journeying or like just jamming out? Or are they using it consciously when using cannabis? Like, what do you find people are using the music mostly for? Like personal use or?
Yeah, I've been really encouraging people, and I do this in the events that I do. I've been really encouraging people to listen to the strain of music while they're consuming that specific strain of music.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really trying to build out a library of as many strain cultivars as there are, but that can kind of seem a little bit impossible because there's always
Mm-hmm.
crosses being created. But even with an indica sativa hybrid variation, I think that you can really get into the energetic vibe of the music, because I feel like that's what the plant is really reflecting, is like the vibe of how that plant's medicine is going to sort of feel. So for a
Mm-hmm.
lot of sativa plants, you know, the music is really up tempo, energetic, upbeat. With the indicas, the music is like really transcendental. It's very
Yes.
ambient, you know? And then the hybrids, I never know what they're going to sound like, you know? So, what I've noticed is that people have done some really interesting like journeying while they're consuming the cannabis, especially with edibles, because
Mm-hmm.
the tracks that I have can be quite long sometimes. Sometimes I
Mm-hmm.
just hit record and I just like let them go for like 20 minutes. So people
Okay.
will just like have it on repeat and then they'll just go into like their meditation states or their journeying. I'm really interested in having like group journeying.
Yes, that's what I was picturing.
Yeah, absolutely. I recently just came back to California, so where I was in Philadelphia, you know, a lot of these things weren't really possible, like group consumption of cannabis and things like that, just because of
Mm-hmm.
the legal barriers of people getting together. But that's why I came
Yeah.
back out to California because I was like, you know, I'm doing all this really great work, but I can't really share it with people the way I want to.
Yes.
So yeah.
That's amazing. Can you also share with us like your website where people can find your work if they want to collaborate with you? Or like I know if I was someone new hearing this, I'd be like, I need to go listen to some of this music right now because this is incredible. So where can
Yeah,
people find your work?
absolutely. You can definitely find me at cannatunes on Instagram. My website is on there to listen. You can also just type in cannatunes into SoundCloud. And then my website is www.wixsite.com/cannatunes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, there's everything from indicas to sativas that you can listen to, hybrids. And if anybody has any like strain requests, you know, feel
Oh,
free to reach
cool.
out to me um on the Instagram or at cannatunes@gmail.com. And if there's any farmers or people who are currently growing and they want to hear or have an album commissioned of their season, because I've been working with a bunch of
Cool.
cannabis farmers to work with their cannabis strains from the spring to the summer to harvest so that they have like a full season album
Mm-hmm.
of their plants. So yeah, yeah, and ultimately I'd love it to be where people can go into the dispensaries themselves and then just, you know, they can just listen in the dispensaries, the cannabis that's
Mm-hmm.
being sold right there, and they can just download it on their phone and listen to it at home.
Oh, that'd be so awesome. For anyone that's also new, maybe just to frequency and plants and music in that way, do you have any like guidance or reading materials or podcasts or anything else that you share that maybe people could start looking into to learn more about that?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Thank you so much for asking that. There's
Mm-hmm.
a couple of people that I follow who have done really great work on sound and frequency. Like I mentioned, Gordon White is a gentleman who's based out of New Zealand or Australia, but he has a podcast called runesoup.com. It's really
Mm-hmm.
great. There's a bunch of people on YouTube that I think is does amazing work. His one gentleman is Santos Bonacci. He's also in Australia, I believe. Let me give me a sec. Oh, the Damanhur people. You spell Damanhur as Damanhur. They also
Okay.
have a bunch of work on YouTube you can find and Vimeo. They also have their own Instagram. Um, and I feel like uh, here I'll even there's a one of the number one books I think that
Okay.
really brings in the idea of plants and frequency is Secrets of the Soil by Christopher
Ooh.
Bird. And this was the book that was given to me in college that really broke it open for me. It's Peter Tompkins and Christopher Bird, Secrets of the Soil. They also wrote The Secret Life of Plants. This is their second
Ooh.
book. and it's one that is less talked about. But if you really want to get into the idea of plants and frequency and nature as almost like an opening into the vibratory
Mm-hmm.
nature. I feel like I'm not saying this right. Um,
I know, I find the same, like when I'm like channeling, I'm like, I can see it, but I can't put into words what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. Oh, and then I'm so glad you asked me this too, because there's another gentleman that I feel like his work is like number one. Besides this book, the other book is The Cosmic Serpent by Jeremy Nardi.
Okay.
I mean, this guy has done so much work to really declutter the idea of using medicinal plants as a way to opening up these different dimensions where you're able to understand the frequency of nature. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a quote that he says, and I'm like missing it right now, but he speaks. The best way I can sum it up, the quote that he says is, he says that the job of a shaman is to learn the songs of the plants, and
Ooh.
once they are able to understand each individual song of the plant, then they are able to understand the world around them.
Mm-hmm.
And then that is the job of the shaman, to learn basically the songs of the plants.
Mm-hmm. We did some work with a shaman in another province, and he said that he likes to say the word share man instead of shaman, because you're like sharing all the things you've
Interesting.
learned. So that's what he says. It's a share man or a share woman instead of the shaman
Oh,
or the shaw
wow.
woman. And I thought that I will never forget. Like, I actually like that better. It's almost like that shaman name has like become
Sure.
so, like, I don't want to say like belittled, but it's kind of like, oh, do this 1 day course and you're a shaman. And it's
It's
like,
over. Oh, yeah.
it
Oh,
is. It's like, no, there's a
absolutely.
lot more to it than that. So he calls it a share man and a share woman, because like you're literally sharing everything you've learned, whether it's like the medicine or the
100%.
ceremonies, like your own life. And I was like, oh, I love that so much more. It's like humbling, grounding, but still connecting, like sharing instead of the shaman. So I just wanted to share that. I figured you'd like
No,
that too.
that's real, and there has been a
Hmm.
oversaturation of the whole
Hmm.
shamanism, journeying, and
Hmm.
I'm not by any means claiming to be a shaman or
Oh yeah,
anything
me
like that.
either. I'm just
I
like, I
guess,
have stuff that I know that I'm just telling you.
yeah. Oh, I found the Jeremy Narby quote because
Okay.
I feel like it's so good that I just
Yes, give it to us.
Jeremy Narby, he wrote The Cosmic Serpent, and if you look him up on YouTube, you will find some of the most amazing talks, like 1 2 hour talks. He's spoken at Bioneers a number of times, but he has he's one of the few people I think that speaks about the more than human world in the most clearest way. And
Hmm.
the quote goes, the way the shaman describe it, the spirits of nature or the essences are themselves melodies. When they perceive
Hmm.
these different entities, if you pay careful attention, they vibrate out a melody. And the work of the shaman is to pick up the given melodies of each species.
Whoa. That's like one with all.
Yeah. And
Love that.
I feel like that's all I need to say.
Yeah, it's just like that's the perfect way to end this. I love it. I love it. Do you have any other like words of wisdom or info or tips or anything you'd like to share before we close?
Yeah, I would just like really, and everybody says this, take a moment to be out in nature and things like that. But what I would like to encourage people to do is, do that when it's like almost the most uncomfortable. Don't wait for a really
Hmm.
nice day or when everything has to be perfect, because just like your life or your experience, it's always not going to be this, you know, everything is exactly in the
Mm-hmm.
right place. So even, I know it's super cold outside on the East Coast, you know, and things like that, but really just accept the changing moments within your environment, and then
Mm-hmm.
also appreciate the fact that, you know, your house is part of that environment, the street,
Yes.
you know, like you are not separate from this. That's what Gordon White is trying to say when we say, like, there is no environment. Like, the environment is a construct that we've created to separate ourselves. So really just go outside, even if you're just walking down a city street, just accept that you're like immersed in this space, and
Mm-hmm.
that it's not about necessarily it's being bad or it's being good. It's just really feel that space, feel that the ancestors are coming up through that land, that whether or not you are new to that place, or you've been part of that place for generations, that you belong there, you have a
Mm-hmm.
belonging, and just really holding that in.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. I literally think this might be my favorite episode I've ever recorded.
Well, thank you so much for
Like
giving.
for real. I really loved it. Thank you so much. Like you hit so many points, everything you're saying, like my heart's like, yes, 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 yes.
And I forgot to mention as well, the
Hmm.
Ginseng album is coming out February 29th. And
Okay.
we'll be also, the project we're doing is in collaboration with the Smithsonian. So the Smithsonian will be doing a 10-day festival on the Washington Mall all about ginseng in July,
Whoa.
right after the 4th of July. So we will be there in July doing a lot of, we're putting together a giant puppet show around ginseng and around that Cherokee story we mentioned earlier. So yeah, ginseng album February 29th. Really excited
Perfect.
about that. And yeah, thank you once again. I'm really excited about this.
Thank you. And thank you for your work, like putting yourself in like out there and these experiences and learning more to share more and create. And it's just wonderful. Like I just want to like commend you for your experiences and your work. Thank you.
Oh my God, thank you so much for, yeah, recognizing that. I really appreciate
Yeah, it's like, when you're doing something that's so different than society, it's not like someone's like, yeah, just do this job and you'll get this paycheck and this is how everyone will love you and your
it.
life will be
Sure.
this way. Like you're putting yourself in such like a different zone of genius, and it's really important and really honorable and wonderful. And I just want to recognize that because yeah, probably not enough people do that. So
Yeah, people are like, wait, what are you talking about?
and you're like,
Huh?
oh yeah,
Like,
that's just someday. Like
yeah, yeah, no worries. But, you know, and then I'm also
yeah.
just like in the woods talking to plants half the time. So, like, you
Yeah.
know, just to talk to other people who are like having the same sort of language as you is just
Hmm.
helpful too, you know.
For sure. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day. And I hope we get to talk again